It was a great lesson for me to learn very early on to commit myself to the things that had already been proven to be successful by people who had come before me, and to not avoid those things, but also not to make mistakes and start to, as many athletes do and as many people do, to try to create their own path because it's easier. And what they will say is, but I'm doing it my own way. That's also called a shortcut. My running style was very, very different from most of the other sprinters. And so after achieving what I did in my first year, I started to get a lot of media attention. A lot of the experts said that in order for me to break the world records and to win gold medals, I would have to start running like the other athletes, the ones who were finishing behind me. I'll give you a little biomechanical lesson real quick. You can impress your friends with this. So my style is much more upright, as you probably noticed in the video. The iconic sprinter before me was Carl Lewis, with a lot more forward lean, beautiful sprinting style. I think mine was beautiful too, but beautiful sprinting style. Mine was much more upright. People said it looked funny. I took a lot of criticism when I was a kid. You run funny. Yeah, I'm in front of you. For any track and field athlete, the Olympics is the pinnacle. So I get to the Olympic trials, which were in New Orleans that year, and it was, I was ranked #1 in the world, heavy favorite to win not only our Olympic trials, but also to win the Olympics in Barcelona later that summer. Throughout the preliminary rounds, I ran well, I won all of my heats, and then I find myself in the final, and in a random lane draw, I drew lane 8. And the 200 meters with a staggered start, that means it's the worst lane on the track. You can't see your competitors when you're in lane 8. When you hear about athletes, you always hear, you have to have that extra little bit of arrogance, that athletes have to have a little bit of arrogance, and you're probably going, yeah, we see it already. It's true, you do have to have that, because I won the race, and I think it was partially because I was prepared better than I had ever been prepared, because I understood what was at stake, and I understood that even though I'm the best, and yes, it's still 200 meters, and I'm the best 200-meter runner, I understood that the margin for error is smaller now. I can't make any mistakes, and I focused on that part of it. And then at the very end, just before they called us to the blocks, I thought, so usually 50 meters into the race, I don't see my competitors anyway, because I'm already ahead. And so that arrogance came, to my advantage that particular day. Later that year, 92, I made that team. I won the race and just missed the world record by 0.07 of a second. And so I was ready to go in the best shape of my life. I got food poisoning just before the Barcelona Olympics, about 7 days before my event was to start. My Olympics were basically over. I did win a gold medal as a member of the 4x400 meter relay, but as a track and field athlete, you're an individual athlete, and that's what I was there for. And so I wasn't happy at all with that medal, and I wasn't happy with the situation, and it was devastating. After that, I spent the next 3 years preparing for 1996 and preparing for what I would do there, and my goals were big, and they were audacious. And when I said, I had always done things that had never been done before. From the moment I entered the sport as a professional, becoming the first person to win, to end the season ranked #1 in the world at 200 meters and 400 meters. I had won a 200-meter world championship, and then in 1993, I decided I'm going to switch events, and I'm going to attempt a 400-meter world championship. No one had ever done that before, and I did it, and I won. And then I moved on. In 1995, I decided I'm going to attempt to run both and win both at a world championship. No one's ever done that before. And I was able to do that. And then I announced I'm going to do it at the Olympic Games. Set your goals high. Set them, audaciously. Reach for it. If you're going to do it, do it. Reach for the stars. And that's how I always approached it from the very beginning. As much as, I would encourage that. I wouldn't encourage that. For 2 reasons. You could get silver. You could get silver. And so when I was training the entire time we were working on this project, and in hindsight, it all worked out. I won. I got gold. And so I didn't have to suffer the embarrassment of getting the silver medal with these shoes. The lead on the project, Toby, said, I got this great group of fabrics, but I got this one that I really like. I think it's unbelievable. It's going to look fantastic. And he brought it in, and so we're sitting around the table, and my coach looked at it, and he said, I don't like it. And so, like, why not? And he says, and it was kind of a mirror kind of effect. So the shoe looked like a mirror. You could see a reflection in it. And he said, I think it's going to look silver from the stands. And that's when I got the idea I wanted it to be gold. And so we decided, and everyone around the table, when I said I want it to be gold, everyone around the table just got quiet. And I don't think at that point, I think I was the only one that just didn't realize what the consequence might be, because I was never thinking that way. I never thought, what if I don't win? Because I always felt I was going to win. So set your goals high. Don't put additional pressure on yourself. And then the other thing is it became more famous than I did. I was on a plane once, and this guy asked me what I do, what do you do? And I told him I used to be a sprinter and everything. And he goes, yeah, who was that guy that had those gold shoes? I was just at a point where I was really getting a little bit tired of the sport, because I was actually being criticized for not winning races by enough. Yeah. And so, and that was just how ridiculous our sport had become. And it was, it was the standard I had set. I wasn't winning races by enough, and I was getting criticized for that. So, and I remember I was at practice one day, and my coach said, what's wrong? And I said, nothing. He says, no, something's not right. You're not into it. What's going on? And I told him, and he said, look, this is our goal. And our goal that year was to break the world record for 400 meters. And it just brought me back to the reality of the situation is, look, why do we do this? To win races. Are we winning races? We're winning races. And our goal this year is to break the world record. And so, and just knowing me really well, and he said, you want to end the workout now? And he didn't have to say anything else. And he knew what that would do for me. And basically it got me focused back on what our goals were, and I had always been only focused on my goals, and so it was a good moment for me where he helped me to just refocus on what was really important and what I was out there for.
You talked about the fact that you didn't have a natural advantage for some of the things that you do now. What kinds of things do you do to offset that lack of natural advantage in terms of either skills development, affirmations you may tell yourself, and other things that you do to offset that to be successful? Thanks.
It doesn't sound as good when you say I don't have natural ability to do this stuff. I'm joking. No, I'm joking. That's a good question. And it is funny, because there is like I said, it was funny, but I was serious. You don't really realize it until later how much of an advantage that is. And so, I have to, what has happened is, and what I've found is that all of those things that I've talked about, and a lot of the things that I used as an athlete, the preparation that it takes for me to be my best on the Olympic telecast, for example. This will be my third Olympics for BBC, and I lead the coverage for a lot of the shows that we do. And for me to be ready for that, it takes a tremendous amount of preparation and focus. And so a lot of the things that the same things I did when I was competing, making sure that I'm prepared, understanding, all of the different possibilities that may happen, and being prepared for any of those.
About 15 years ago, in my hometown in Houston, I was at a fundraiser, and I purchased a Carl Lewis autographed shoe. Last night we had a poker game, and I actually have some of my friends' money, and you have a shoe. So I wanted to see if we can make a deal.
Is this Carl Lewis's shoe? It would have to have been a very high-stakes poker game.
There was a lot of steroids going on in that era. What was it like, and how did you feel when you found out guys you were running against were cheating, essentially?
Well, it's really tough, and it's really a difficult thing for the sport, for any sport, and it's difficult for athletes as well, because it's difficult for a couple of reasons. One, knowing that you have to run against people, and you don't know who they are, running against people who are cheating. But then also, it's difficult because you get targeted too if you run fast. The only way not to get targeted is to not run fast in a sport where the objective is to run fast. And so it's tough. I found out some people that I ran against were using steroids, and so to answer that part of the question, didn't really bother me that much because I always beat them. But I have a guy who works for me. He runs client management for me, and he was one of my training partners. He was a really good 400-meter runner, and he's retired now as well. And he never made an Olympic team, made one world championship team. And one day we sat around and we counted up the number of people, or the number of teams that he would have made if the people who have subsequently been found out to have been using steroids or admitted to it, and he would have made 2 Olympic teams. That's tough. That's really tough. And then you have those people who, and like I said, fortunately for me, I never had to deal with that because I won. But those are the real victims. And then you got, I gave back a medal. I won 5 gold medals in total at the Olympics. 2000. 4x400-meter relay in Sydney, I won a gold medal. And then one of my teammates admitted later, as part of a grand jury investigation, that he had used steroids. He never tested positive, but he admitted to it. So I gave back the medal. Because, so there you got the 4th place team who never got to get on the podium. You got the 2nd place team who thought they were a silver medalist all this time, who actually was a gold medalist. And they got their medals in a conference room somewhere. And that's just, it's tough and it's sad. And look, at the end of the day, what you can, obviously it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, you can kind of take solace in knowing that most people are good people. And sports is only a small microcosm of society. Most people in society do the right thing. We don't go rob banks and sell drugs and stuff. Most of us go to work and do the right thing. It's the same way in sports. Most people, even though you might read that it's out of control, when you have a zero tolerance policy, yeah, it's going to be, it's going to be highlighted when somebody does wrong, but most people do the right thing. Thank you.